Just picked up 2 new dressers to refresh. This got a cool inlaid wickered pattern. It looks like the finish is coming off, but it's almost like a paint. Hard to tell what the original finish looked like, but you can see the top's in really rough shape. We're gonna have to do some serious work to clean this all up. But I think once we strip it down, clean it all up, it'll be beautiful. And its sister piece is over here. Another low boy. This has got a hanging area where you could actually like hang some clothes in there with hooks, and then 4 drawers, and it's a little bit longer, but not a really long piece. Handles will need to be refreshed. Legs will need to be cleaned up and refreshed, but they screw on, so they should be pretty easy to do. There's no maker's mark on the inside of this cabinet. I didn't see one on the other, so we'll have to do some research to see if we can figure out who actually made these. Now, of course, the only way to take off any handles is with a ridiculous pink screwdriver. So this is probably the proper way to remove those handles. But honestly, with a flat back screw and these big bulky handles on the front, you just put your finger on the back of that bolt, spin the handle around, and you're good to go. This is the point where you don't drop it, especially on camera. Or if you do, you put it back on and make it look like you took it off professionally without dropping it in the first place. As I mentioned before, these 2 pieces are in pretty rough shape. So the first thing to do is to grab a scraper and to start taking off the top coat and really seeing what's going on beneath it. I always want to attack the worst areas first and make sure it's actually something I can repair and don't have to stop and re-veneer the whole thing or paint the project. So here's my usual method of operations. I'm going to grab a carbide scraper, take off the majority of the finish, come back with the random orbital sander. Sometimes I work as low as 120. Usually it's more like 180 because it's a random orbital sander, and I'll usually turn the speed down because I don't want to blow through any veneer. Really just depends on how thick the veneer is or if it's a solid piece. Once I've sanded with the random orbital sander, I'll identify some problem areas. So you'll see in a moment, I'll point out some spots where the sanding really isn't perfect, and I've got to come back with a hand sander or a scraper and really work on those specific areas. Then I'll go back over the whole thing again with a higher grit and just make sure everything looks good. Now, since we have 2 pieces, we've got twice as much work to do. You can see how beat up this second piece is. This is the top of the piece, watermarks, scratches, the corners are dinged, but it's going to be rinse and repeat as far as the process. Scrape everything down, and then we're going to sand it off, and then take a look at it and see what the remaining scratches and dings look like. Now, as you can see, the front of this drawer broke off, and actually the drawer fell and the back of the drawer got some cracks in it as well. We're going to pry those open with an ice pick, get some glue in there, use some tape to hold it down, flip it over, glue the front face back on, throw a clamp on that, flip it back over and put some extra pressure on this back piece, pinning this wood down flat on the back of the drawer. Man, that's a lot of steps. I hope I remember them all. It was tape down the back, glue on the front, stick my big head in front of the camera. Oh yeah, throw a clamp on there, flip it back over, throw that piece in the back, throw a couple of clamps on that. I think we actually got this. And look how happy I am. And of course, you know, we can't just sand down the cabinet. We've got to do all the drawers. But check out this funky drawer liner. All right, welcome back from the 1960s. The only bad news is we've still got some really dark areas. So at this point, the next goal was grab some wood bleach. Let's bleach this whole cabinet and see if we can keep this nice light color, or if it's something we're gonna have to do a dark stain on to cover up some of these marks. All right, after mixing up some hot water and some wood bleach and covering more wood than I'd ever like to remember that I had to do with this stuff, it really made for a nice light product. So instead of darkening these dressers, I think a cool whitewash on top of them will look really awesome and make them pop. Now here's the bad news. It's the first warm day of spring, and I mean really warm. And I forgot that when you work outside in the spring, stain dries really fast. Keep that in mind. Now, because I want this to be a family-friendly show, I bleeped out all the words I'm saying right now, but let's just say they rhyme with duck and hit and a bunch of other cool things like that. Here I am doing the walk of shame back into the house. I'll spend a few hours inside crying, then I'll return from my shameful walk, I'll grab the mineral spirits, and they'll save the day, and everything will look wonderful.
Woke up with the sun shining, yeah. Birds are singing songs today. Good vibes, yeah, they're here too.
And right now is when I realize that inset area looks terrible unpainted. So we spray painted them, sanded them down, and they look great. The only bad news is now we've got to do that to the carcasses and all the drawer fronts. Oh boy. Now that was a bunch of work, and there's still going to be more sanding to do, and then we've got to put a coat of polyurethane on everything. But man, is it really coming along. This is a water-based poly because it helps keep that light color of the wood, whereas an oil-based poly tends to really amber things a bit here. Now, even though we've done a ton of work, we've still got to get the handles up to snuff. Fortunately, it turns out these are solid brass handles. So we grabbed some Barkeeper's Friend. It's a light bleach that'll actually clean up these handles really nicely. Used rags, and then a toothbrush, and then back to the rags, and then we've got a shiny gold handle. And here they are, looking amazing, and I decided to jump on the AI bandwagon and let AI pick the backgrounds. They sure look great. Thanks for watching.